The night shift at Embassy Station was always quiet, which suited David Chun just fine. He pushed his cleaning cart through the diplomatic quarters, humming softly, some old lullaby his daughter used to love before the accident. The memory still hurt, 3 years later, but he'd learned to carry it. He was polishing the viewport in the observation lounge when he noticed her. The small figure sat curled in the corner, partially hidden behind a decorative pillar. Even in the dim light, her skin had that telltale prismatic shimmer. Valerian, one of the princess daughters, probably from the diplomatic family that had arrived last week. The Valorians had 12 children, and David couldn't keep track of which was which. But he could recognize pain. The little one's shoulders shook silently. David had strict orders not to interact with the Valerian delegation. They were notoriously private, notoriously formal. But he'd been a father long before he'd been a janitor, and some instincts ran deeper than protocol. He approached slowly, making his footsteps obvious so he wouldn't startle her. When he got close, he could see her better, maybe 7 or 8 in human years, with large eyes that held an ancient sadness. She looked up at him, and he saw her mouth open as if to speak, but no sound came out. Her hands moved frantically in signs he didn't recognize. "Hey there," David said softly, crouching down to her level despite his creaking knees. "Can't sleep?" She stared at him, then slowly shook her head. Her hands moved again, definitely some kind of sign language. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I don't understand." David thought for a moment, then reached into his cart and pulled out his tablet. "But maybe we can figure something out together?" He opened a simple drawing app and offered it to her. She hesitated, then took it with trembling hands. She drew quickly, a crude stick figure with arms spread wide, surrounded by other figures. Then she drew a line through the group, separating the single figure from the rest. David's heart clenched. He knew that feeling. "You feel alone," he said gently, "even with all your family around." Her eyes widened. She nodded vigorously. David sat down fully, ignoring the protest from his back. "Yeah, I know that one." He took the tablet and drew his own picture, a tall figure and a small figure holding hands. Then just the tall figure alone. "I lost my little girl, Emma. She was about your age." The princess watched him intently. "And for a long time, I couldn't talk about it either. Felt like if I said it out loud, it would be too real." David smiled sadly. "But you know what I learned? Sometimes the quietest voices have the most important things to say. And sometimes you just need one person to listen right." He offered her the tablet back. She drew another picture, herself with a big X over her mouth. Then a dozen faces turning away. "They don't listen because you can't speak their way," David interpreted. "But that doesn't mean you have nothing to say." The princess's lip trembled. She drew one more picture, 2 figures sitting together, one tall, one small. "Yeah," David whispered. "I see you, kid." What happened next would be discussed in xenolinguistic circles for decades. The princess opened her mouth, and sound came out. Not words, not yet, just a small, broken noise, like a rusted gate trying to open. But it was sound, her own voice, and used for so long that her people had declared her affliction permanent. Thank you." The words were barely audible, mangled and unpracticed, but unmistakable. David felt his eyes burn. "Oh, sweetheart, you're so welcome." What he didn't see was the figure in the doorway. Empress Lara had been searching for her youngest daughter for an hour, growing more frantic by the minute. She found her here, in this forgotten lounge, with a human maintenance worker. And she'd heard everything. The Valerian Empire had the finest doctors, the most advanced speech therapists, the greatest minds in medicine. They'd examined Princess Cyrell for years, declared her condition neurological, irreversible. They'd taught her formal sign language and moved on. But they'd never just sat with her, never listened to what her silence was saying. Lara watched this human, this janitor, this nobody in the grand scope of galactic politics, see through to her daughter's heart in 5 minutes. She watched him give Cyrell something all their technology couldn't. The simple acknowledgement that she mattered, exactly as she was. The Empress's own voice caught in her throat as tears tracked down her face, bioluminescent in the darkness. Cyrell turned to show her mother the tablet. Her face transformed with joy. She saw Lara's tears and froze. But David followed her gaze and stood, wiping his own eyes. Your Majesty, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to overstep. Stop! Lara's voice shook. She knelt beside her daughter, sighing as she spoke. What is your name? David Chun, ma'am. David Chun. The Empress pulled her daughter close, felt the small voice trying again against her shoulder. Fragile, determined, alive. You have given my daughter her voice. How does an empire repay such a gift? David smiled, that sad dad smile of someone who'd lost everything and learned what mattered. Just keep listening to her. That's all any kid really needs. And in the quiet of that observation lounge, as Cyrell whispered her first words in years and her mother wept with joy, a janitor finished his shift. Some things, he'd learned, were more important than protocol.